Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the UKEL. We've had a little bit of a swap up in the casting booth. As you can see, I'm not Darksil, and I'm not joined by Doctor. I am Will Viper and Whittingham, and I'm joined by Charlie the Sargenson. And fun fact, actually, Sarge, that is, I only just realised why you were called the Sarge. Very recently.
This long.
Yeah, we've worked it for like 6 months at this point in various leagues and stuff, and I just clocked on. But regardless, we're going straight to Champs, ladies and gentlemen. No messing around. It's sports taking on London esports, and this is maybe one of the most hyped matchups we've got of the day. London, everyone has been talking about this roster. They look very, very good. Obviously, stuff like Proving Grounds, they looked very strong individually, these players, and there's a lot of hype around them. And Peak, a bit more of an unknown quantity. We don't really know what we're going to get from them. Excited to see how they stack up.
And when you are coming into the UKEL with such a hype behind you with the London roster, you definitely want to be coming out and performing. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on these guys, but it is week 1. So the teams could be experimenting, still finding the feet a little bit of synergy, or they might just be trying to come and smash out the gates and make a name for themselves immediately. We have to see what they want to try and go for, and how they're kind of squaring up against their opponents initially.
First set of bans, Oriana, Twisted Fate, Akali, and Senna. 3 standard bans coming in from London esports, and esports, they've clearly had a little look at what Nice Guy Dom likes to play, because his Oriana games during the UK Proving Grounds, some of them were absolutely insane, so you've got to get a champion away from that guy. Lee Sin as well, No Name is known for that champion, and the Soraka is picked up by Peak.
We're seeing this Poppy, what we've seen around the world emerging, this Soraka in the top lane. She is very, very difficult to lane against, because unless you can get her down immediately, just burst her 100 to 0, you are going to be coming off worse from these trades. She has a lot of healing in her kit, and that only scales better and better the more the game goes on. Looks like Rakan is going to be hovered for our London esports first pick as a counter. A nice support to pick up lots of engage, lots of ability to stay safe in lane, weaving in and out of these fights, really forcing whenever you want, and then being able to jump back to his AD carry, which will this game be a Varus.
A bit of Varus, we've seen it do absolutely tons of work in the LEC. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes in the side of Blue Spirits. You've got to imagine that's right.
Yeah, and
champions anywhere.
Misfortune is appearing to be the hover response from Peak Esports. This is one of the other champions that we're seeing, but we're hearing that the Amumu proxy pick is going to be a Jarvan, so locking in one of those early game junglers, someone who they want to try and impact the map with. They want to try and get out into these lanes as early as possible and start causing chaos, which is a perfect setup if you do catch 2 people in that Cataclysm for the Misfortune bullet time layered nicely over the top.
Poppy is going to be the response instantly taken by London, so bit of a question where that will go. You've got to suggest probably the top lane is where Poppy's most seen. Sometimes see right in the jungle, but good pick into Jarvan to stop him from getting a good engagement. So it can be quite aggressive.
Yeah, and it's also a nice pick as well, because it means you don't have to... It's not someone who you're necessarily looking to get a massive lead for in the top lane. It's not like a Renekton or a Jace, where you need to get these victories in lanes. You need to be pushing yourself ahead. You can kind of take a bit more of a passive option. You don't have to try and take any of these trades that could go badly for you into the Soraka. You can just farm and try and scale up, be that impact for your team in the team fight stage of the game when you group up around these objectives instead.
And we're going into the second round picks and bans with Syndra, Cassiopeia and Kled being taken away. Kled obviously reasonably good into the Poppy, so don't want to be seeing that one. Oh, Peak actually banned that. What am I talking about? But we're going to see what the final ban is going to be coming through. And as we were talking about, these 2 teams, London, definitely a lot of people pegging them and be looking at those tier lists as being that top tier organisation that should be not necessarily walking the league, but really being a good side. Hopefully getting top 2 or 3 and then going through in the play. Well, Peak is we don't know as much about, but the last ban is going to be the Rise, meaning that Nice Guy Dom, he's going to have to go for something maybe he's a little less comfortable on, but we know this guy has a lot of very strong champion picks. That we're probably going to see something quite impressive with the Rumble being locked in as well. Where do you expect that to go?
The Rumble could potentially go up towards the top lane. Now that I'm seeing it paired with the Poppy, we could be seeing a bit of Poppy jungle, something that we haven't seen for a while, but it does lend itself to going aggressive early from the warrior, and you can try and use it to battle the Jarvan early. He does like to use that flag and drag combo to set up ganks to fight you in the jungle. With the Poppy, you can interrupt him on that and turn some of these trades in your favour. So we might be seeing that go to the jungle and the Rumble pivot up towards the top side with a bit more ranged firepower and a bit more push to try and pressure this Soraka.
Now looking to just see what will be the last pickup going in to this game. Sorry for a couple of those issues, ladies and gentlemen. We hopefully have them resolved now with my lovely voice.
Do apologise for those. We're trying to get teething problems with the broadcast out of the way, so I do believe we have everything sorted out again.
Hopefully, I hope I'm back.
The complete. I'm now seeing a Zilean and an Anivia, which were not things I was seeing before. So I'm assuming those were final lock-ins for our teams. The Anivia is close to the top of the champion list, so it could have been a proxy pick like the Amumu, or is that an actual Anivia we'll be seeing in the mid lane?
I mean, it's not something that I wouldn't be too surprised to see an Anivia in that middle lane. It's not something that jumps out at me as being something that Nice Guy Dom wouldn't want to play. It's not a terrible pick at the moment, I don't think. Obviously, I'm no expert. I don't play the mid lane particularly. I don't play Anivia, but just to see if that is a proxy. We haven't seen anything coming through from production, so we'll work on the assumption that the Anivia and Zilean have been locked in. Okay, there's confirmation that the only proxy was J4, so what do you make of these comps now?
Well, the Anivia does work in a similar way to the Orianna. Like you were saying, Viperune, Nice Guy Dom is really well known on this champion. So trying to counter that with something that is a similar kind of control mage, a lot of zoning potential with Anivia's walls. You can create choke points, you can catch people out of position, split team fights, and the ultimate covering such a wide area really creates zones that are difficult to enter for the opposing team. So if we do see people trying to set up choke points around objectives, fight in the Rift Herald pit, for example, early on to get some priority, this could be a key champion to securing that area and making it really difficult for London Esports to try and get a fight back in those areas.
I just want to jump into the game, honestly. Obviously, it'll be a little bit of a wait because we're going to have to go through because of that proxy pick, make sure that all the champions are in the right order, and then hopefully we'll be able to get confirmation of these teams, what they've decided that they're going to fully lock in, and who's going to be taking what where. But what do you think? Sarge, obviously we did our predictions earlier. Who did you predict to win this game?
I don't remember off the top of my head, I believe I picked London Esports, just because I like London. I thought that we like to see some UK representation. We are the UKEL after all. So London Esports, I believe, was my pick. And looking at their draft, if they can get the Varus set up nicely with the Chains of Corruption, with the Rakan ultimates overlapping to set up some really big engages for these team fights, I think they do have a massive chance to pull ahead, especially when you have the Zilean providing that resurrection to the Varus. If he does get popped, it almost gives you a second chance to do these team fights over again behind the front line of a Poppy that is going to be trying to keep this Jarvan away.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I might well be, but I thought there was a Rakan being locked in as well from London.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I was hoping.
I'm sitting there, I'm puzzling that one through.
Yeah, I was hoping you would ask me about it, because I'm trying to work out where the Rakan is going, to be honest. Because I'm already working on the assumption that it's going to be Poppy jungle. And
okay.
If it is Poppy in the jungle, that means that it's either a Zilean or the Rakan in the solo lane. So I'm assuming it's going to be the Zilean going up top against the Soraka. Can stay at range, so it isn't going to give Soraka just that easy poke and easy sustain that she gets from the Starcaller. Can push quite nicely, has the CC available, and the slows to try and lock the Soraka in place for a gank. So this could be an option London try to look for. As I said, we have seen how devastating Mr. Soraka can be scaling into the late game, because it just gives you a massive amount of team-wide healing from the Wish ultimate which brings to the table. So trying to shut this down early could be a good call, but until we get in, I'm gonna hold it there and wait and see.
Yeah, we'll wait and see to make sure that everyone's got their champions locked in before we start talking too much. Okay, this looks like what we're going to be seeing this game. You'd think. Which does actually make some sense. The Rumble in the Jungle is a pick that isn't too outrageous. It can be seen. We don't see it too much, but decent gang potential with the ultimate, can clear reasonably well with the Flame Spitter. Like, it's not... Oh, wait. I've just been baited. London, why? Why have you done this? I'm going to wait. You know what? Let's talk about Peak. Peak, you're looking good. You're looking very meta. The Anivia mid, I like it. It's not something we see every day, but... excited to see how it goes.
It fits a role that you understand, though. It might not be an Orianna, it might not be a Vladimir, but it still fits that kind of scaling, area control, just really massive amount of wave clear, and a lot of damage if you do set up right. Like, this is the thing with Peak Esports when I'm looking at their team composition. They're looking for very specific situation to fight in. They want to fight in lanes in the jungle, and they want to fight around objectives, because it forces London Esports to come to them, to respond to them, to get channeled into an area where the Anivia ultimate, the bullet time, the cataclysm can all be layered across the top of each other to a devastating effect. And I think that if London fall into these traps, it is going to be a really difficult situation to form to deal with, and we could be looking at a lot of scrappy team fighting very early into this game. And,
I mean, both of these teams, like, it's kind of almost the reverse is true as well with London. So you've got the Rumble, you've got the Zillion, all the damage he's going to be doing, the Varus and the Rakan. They also don't hate fighting in those choke points around those objectives, because they're going to be putting out a decent amount of damage as well. And Peak, both of these teams have really, really strong area of effect team fight abilities, and ultimates especially. If one team can get a little bit ahead, both of these teams are trying to fight team fights in a very similar way, it looks like. And having a small advantage, maybe just one character that's stronger, might be the turning point. The problem I can see for London here is that outside of the Rakan, their team isn't all that mobile, so it's going to be more difficult to get onto those backline members, those high priority targets, get right in their faces, whereas on the side of Peak, you've got that Jarvan who can really do that quite easily. And I guess there's more pick as well coming in from the side of Peak. But having said that, I like the London. If London can get a little bit ahead, their combo is going to be very, very difficult to deal with.
Yeah, it certainly will, and this is why I really like the Zillion pickup from Nice Guy Dom, because if you look at the champions across all of our players here, not many of them have dashes, and on Peak Esports, it's only actually the Jarvan that does have a dash himself, so all of the champions are fairly immobile, you know, apart from positioning in fight. Where you are at the beginning of a fight is more or less where you are going to be stood throughout it. And if you have a Poppy running at you, sped up by a Zillion, that is a massive disruption tool that you don't really have a huge way to stop. And it's also going to be a problem where this Anivia puts her walls up, because if you put a wall up and then the enemy Poppy comes and slams you, stunning you into your own team's wall, that's going to cause some frustrating moments.
Same with Jarvan 4 ultimate, isn't it? The Cataclysm. Yep. You're like, I'm going to just go in on this Poppy, and then Poppy's like, well, I'm going to stun you. And
great fun.
It's not great fun for the Jarvan, but we are now into game, ladies and gentlemen. We've got Peak on the blue side, London on the red side, and it's the first cast, our first cast of UKEL this decade. I had to make the joke because no one's made it yet, and it's actually my first cast of League of Legends this year.
Your first cast ever of League of Legends?
Well, no, of this year. I've cast before.
No, just this year.
You'd be surprised listening to me, but I have actually cast before. But yeah, no, I did a Teamfight Tactics tournament earlier in January.
Nice.
But other than that, I haven't really done anything.
I have been watching how the team fight tactics scene has been developing in terms of casting, because I know quite a lot of people were looking into it, trying to get it to work, but it was a case of how are you going to keep the pace, what information are you going to feed people. It's not quite as straightforward as people might initially realise from a production point of view, but we are now into the our third game of the day for the UKEL, mine and yours first, of course, Viper and casting together. And it looks like a fairly standard jungle start from both of our teams, but Jarvan, pathing towards the bottom side of the map already, could be looking for a level 2 lane gank.
We're going to see some alcove gameplay as Jarvan does make his way in. Ollie needs to be careful here, takes an auto attack, but Fraser has been spotted out. The flash comes through, but the root won't land. And Ollie able to just dance out of that one. Bit of a disappointing gank, because the only thing blown was the flash from Morgana.
Yeah, and that is a nice tool to have on Morgana, but it's definitely not a necessity. It's not something that you think of as a key component of her kit, but it could be something that London look to try and exploit. They know that they're not going to have to try and deal with any of these flash engage in future for the next 5 minutes, so this lane will feel a little bit safer. Blue Spirit's able to step a little bit further forwards on this Varus to come up and hit the wave, but at the minute they are being pushed under tower quite a lot. Misfortune is building a decent wave up there, and it can be difficult for Varus to try and clear these off at the early levels if he is forced right under tower.
And of course, Misfortune very, very good at getting that poke, getting that damage down, and creating a threat, because even in the early game, her Q is going to do a decent amount of damage if it's killing minion first. And for Varus Rakan, they don't have hilarious amounts of sustain in the lane, so they're going to have to be very, very careful that they don't get caught out early. But talking about sustain, Soraka top has all of it. Just every bit of sustain.
Yeah, every time Rumble goes up to try and get at this wave, to lay down the Flame Spitter, to try and get a few autos to push it, she's just going to be dropping that Star Call time and time again. It's going to be landing on his head, it's fairly easy to land, and just giving her as much sustain as she could possibly need. So she is going to be quite safe up there. It's only really going to be when the interaction of LOL No Name comes up that is going to cause any problems there. But with Fraser pathing towards the top side, we might actually see Death by Lollipops in a bit of trouble first.
Third aim is around the mid lane. Alcavandia stepped up to try and get onto Nice Guy Dom. He's standing next to a wall. You don't want to do that. You're going to get stunned up, taken low, and into egg form. This should be quite easy kill for London to pick up. They are struggling a little bit for damage, but it shouldn't matter, as First Blood will be taken up. Nice Guy Dom picking that one up on the Zillion. That was a very, very nice gank from the Poppy.
Lovely timing, catches Venivia, just pushed up too far forwards, has no mobility like we're talking about in draft. Very difficult to get out of these situations once you find themselves in it. So Nice Guy Dom being the beneficiary of that early kill, it will give him a nice little bit of gold to get back, buy some items, and start building this advantage over Venivia, which is definitely something that London are going to be wanting to see going into these early objectives starting to spawn.
Very, very nice start from London. Kind of what we'd expect from a team that's been lauded this much. Fraser going very, very low against the Trunks. Gonna have to be a bit careful, but hopefully we won't see another execution. We're not going to talk about last game, but in the bot lane, Blue Spirits and Ollie, you've got to feel that Ollie on this Rakan, he's posturing quite a lot, looking to try and be a bit aggressive. Hasn't got in for any mad plays yet, but I like the fact that he's not just standing back on the Rakan letting his Varus farm out. He's looking for opportunities, and with the Morgana still no flash, that could be a decent target, but it looks like this is going to be a reset down there as we move to the top lane. Death by Lollipops looking to set the Celestial on fire.
Yeah, there's really no reason to not look these engages when you can as for Rakan, especially when you know the Morgana doesn't have a flash. If you've seen her use a Q in lane and it's already been fired off, there are no real tools to threaten you by moving forward, so try and move in, try and get a little bit of damage wherever you can. Just posture, keep this bot lane under as much pressure as possible. Misfortune already has access to a large amount of poke, so you want to be trying to keep them penned in and moving about as much as possible, and not poking you down.
Soraka we did see teleporting back up to the top lane. Rumble's moving towards mid though as we could see a fight breaking out in River, but in the bot lane, Liam is going very, very low on the Misfortune. Will be taken down. The Wish will come through to keep her alive for a few seconds longer, but it's not going to be enough to keep her alive for very long, and Morgana's going to make it 2 in that bot lane. There's 4 members coming through from London Esports, now moving towards the Dragon. Zillion did survive the engagement mid as well, so it's going to be looking now just to zone Fraser away alongside Andy, and they're going to look to pick up this first Dragon of the game. You've got to imagine the Mountain Drake.
And this is all off the back of a lovely coordinated play by LOL No Name and Death by Lollipops. The TP coming in behind the the bot lane of Peak Esports and the jungle coming down at precisely the right time, pinned them in place, and you just saw G2 Liam had nowhere to go. He was already on such low health. Death by Lollipops was the killing blow, and you see Morgana
Raze is in a lot of trouble though, trying to get a steal. Has to flash out the back of the pit. Is on less than 100 health. Liam's there as well. Maybe they're going to look for a steal, but Lol No Name does have smite. It's going to be difficult to take him down. Ollie goes very, very low though. Will actually have to be resurrected by the Zillion as Fraser comes in. Won't be able to steal it away. It's going to be secured by No Name. Lol No Name is going to be able to pick up the kill as well. Liam goes down for another. They do manage to pick up a kill on to the Zillion in return, but that's a 1 for 2 with Dragon going the other way.
Very nice indeed play, trying to get some kills back. London Esports coming out nicely with that. They have a decent lead building up for themselves at this point. Poppy has done a massive amount of work making these ganks happen early, really trying to benefit the team as much as possible. You just see Fraser went in too early and was forced out so early on. The Dragon still has 1,000 health left, can't get anywhere near it, and easy pickup there for London Esports.
It was... The play almost looked a little desperate from Peak. You don't have to contest these early dragons. A lot of casters and players have been saying, look, the first 2 dragons aren't that important. Let them go down if you're behind. Play for the ones that stack up 3-4 times, because yes, it will take longer, and yes, you don't want to just give up dragons for free for no reason. But you don't have to be sacrificing lives for that. And yes, you do get your first kill on the board, but you're using a lot of summoners. You're using Misfortune Flash. You have to use the Jarvan Flash, and where people are going down as well, and you're not even getting the objective. That's not a good trade. That's like not the worst trade deal ever, but it's not a good one.
Yeah, and forcing something that early, trying to make it work when you have the scaling comp, definitely feels like a bit of a miscalculation. Like the Anivia and the Soraka Misfortune are going to scale incredibly well, especially with this layered team fight that Peak Esports are looking for that we've already mentioned, whereas Rumble is going to fall off hard. The Poppy is basically going to just become a frontline tanky minion to have to get through to get to the Varus, and it's just not worth throwing your lives away in that kind of fashion when you're not even that far behind. Yes, you might lose for Drake, but look at what you lost instead by trying to make that play happen, and I'm hoping we don't see Peak Esports try and be a bit too over-eager and lose out that much again.
Well, Rift Herald should be going down pretty easily, uncontested in fact. Going over to Lol No Name, Ollie is there as well on the Rakan, just to give a bit of assistance, but that should quite easily be the objective. We do see it going down, Poppy picking up that one. So basically Poppy's now just got a big bag of gold that she can drop anywhere she wants for whichever laner she desires. Curly Fry with the top lane on the Soraka is a little bit behind on farm, but nothing to write home about, and it's basically just like interactive gameplay lol in the top lane. Like, you're not really killing a Soraka without diving onto her really aggressively. She's not really killing you if you're playing it smart, so it's kind of just a null and void lane. I'll see how she goes into the middle late game, but right now London, they're in a dominant position, they're in control, and Peak need to decide how much they can keep giving up and how many more aggressive plays they can afford before this game goes out of control.
Yeah, and with that Rift Herald being picked up, I would actually like to see it dropped towards the top side of this map. We all know how scary Rumble is in the mid game. As soon as you do start getting out of his laning phase a little bit, when you do start grouping up for some of these fights, and if he does summon Rift Herald in top, I know we're now watching him summon it in mid, it would have given Rumble a nice opportunity to get a bit more gold, get out of his lane a little bit easier to impact.
Oh, Ollie's being caught out down there, gonna have to jump away, but still goes down. Liam picking up that one. A nice quick pick from Peak means they can get a free kill on the board.
Certainly will, and any picks they can get like this are going to benefit them massively. They want to just try and get a little bit of gold back, just find opportunities where they can. The Morgana Q is a fantastic tool to try and pick someone off, especially if you have Fraser's Jarvan just nearby to jump on them and pin them in place. Makes for a very easy kill and a nice bit of gold going over to this Misfortune.
The heat-seeking Q from Misfortune, following the Rakan as he tries to jump away. You can be as mobile as you want, but if the bullet's just going to follow you, then it doesn't really matter, to be honest.
Ain't gonna make a difference if it's already been cast. That's how skill shots like that work. You click, and if a projectile is in the air, it will follow you all the way to the Nexus if needed. So we will see Rakan drop there, but it's not too bad. Varus still has 2 kills himself, so fairly even now in this bot lane. There's not a massive advantage swinging either way, which is a situation that, like I said, Peak Esports are going to be fairly happy with right now.
They're going to be not desperately happy with the way the game's going right now, but they are going to be happy that they can still make these picks. Ollie did overextend to get some vision in and is punished for it, and that might be the way back into the game. Obviously, it's not a huge goal disparity. 2.2k, 2.1k at the 11-minute mark isn't the end of the world. We've certainly seen much more in UK League of Legends, and I don't think Peak are far away out of this game at all. London are in a great spot, though. They just need to tighten up a little bit, and they can take this game back in their iron grip. Whereas Peak do need to keep making these picks, making these plays, and hoping for mistakes and being able to capitalise on them.
Yeah, and with the Ocean Drake just spawning back onto the Rift now, we're already seeing London Esports are all over it. A few members of Peak are nearby, but Jarvan has just back, so he won't be available to try and contest this. It looks like it is going to go over to London without a fight.
The Rift is on fire, ladies and gentlemen. The Infernal Rift blazes on. Thank you very, very much, Joe, for that nice wide zoom shot of the Rift as we see it change. Of course, this will allow for more damage, which is going to be lovely across the board. Dead by Lollipops. Not really playing League of Legends at the moment, to be honest. He's just, Farm Simulator top.
Yeah, it's not the most fun playing into a Soraka because it sounds really strange to say, but you can't really kill her. It's one of these weird lanes where you look at it and you're like, oh, it's a Soraka top, GG. It's an easy one lane, but it really isn't. She just kites away from you. She has the silence which she can drop to stop you closing the distance. She can just regen the health of the Star Caller coming down. She's very obnoxious to try and interact with, and if you don't have jungle assistance or mid lane prio to move up here and really try and chase her down, it gets very difficult in this one-on-one to actually try and make any damage stick to it.
And Rumble is a champion that is going to be reasonably okay doing that, you've got to imagine, when he's got a couple of items under his belt. But right now he's just building up, hasn't got a full item yet, did go for the Merc Treads very early to essentially decrease any kind of kill power that Soraka may or may not have on him, and moving towards that 14-minute mark, moving towards plates falling off, this game has been pretty slow. There isn't any no towers have fallen just yet. We have seen dragons being taken pretty much on the spawn, but been relatively quiet, which, isn't the worst thing in the world, but you'd hope that London might want to turn it up a gear in order to push their minor advantage as they can now, because Peak, they can build their way back into this one.
Yeah, and London definitely have champions that want to be starting to do things around this stage of the game. The Rumble and the Poppy want to be making things happen, and although we've seen LoL No Name make good use of his pathing, fighting around these objectives, he still needs to do more. He needs to make this Predator work, he needs to get some more kills on the board, and they need to start trying to take down some of these structures to open up the map and allow them to really put the pressure onto Peak. Right now, if Peak Gaming are left to just scale up and try and increase, the items they have, the vision they can get out onto the map, they are going to be in a very good position, and they will start having a strong team fight when they do look to contest these Infernal Dragons that are going to be with us for the rest of the game now.
Early Fry recalling again from top after pushing in, denying a nice wave there from Blue Spirits, and just living his best life on the Soraka top, really. I don't expect he'll be getting involved in team fights all too soon. Now moving down towards that bot side. Thank you very much for that vision toggle, Mr. Observer Man. And you can see both the teams now looking towards this Rift Herald. They want to be able to get this second one on the board. It's got 4 minutes until it despawns, 4.5 minutes. Nice heat map there. I called it a vision toggle. It was a heat map, but that's even cooler. I didn't realise we had that information. Thank you very much, Joe.
And there's plenty of opportunities to try and use this Rift Herald. Ideally, the target would be mid. You already dropped the first one in there, so the second would almost certainly open up the tower.
Oh, here we go with the fight. J4 has been caught out. Fraser having to flash away, but Ollie's going to follow up onto both of them. He's going to jump in the Cataclysm, will lock him in place, but not going to do too much. Bullet time won't rip through LOL. No name. He's going to flash away. No, nice go Dom. Will resurrect if he goes down, puts the barrier on to keep alive, and now Alchem Andy looking to put the damage down. Will be doing a lot to Ollie, a lot to Blue Spirits. Blue Spirits goes down. Rakan will follow. That is 2 kills for Peak Esports. Only 1 being picked up by London. They're closing the gap here, and both teams forced away from the Herald.
Peak Esports doing well on the fight there. It looked like it was going bad for them being caught out initially, but they managed to kite back and then pressure forwards, getting the better and coming out of that fight nicely. They now have 3 members pushing mid, but Zilean will be able to clear that wave quite nicely and just keep them at bay, all the while Soraka is still just making these stars drop down in ball.
You see, it's such a nice engagement follow-up from Ollie and the quick kill. But then the bullet time, like I said, didn't do that much. Ashley was ripping through the Zilean, who has to use that ultimate to keep himself alive and then is forced to back away, use that barrier. And now Blue Spirits and Ollie, who stood forward to make sure that their mid laner gets out alive, gets ripped through by this Anivia and this Misfortune. They both fall. And Peak Esports proved that they've still got a bit of bite, and they closed that gold lead. It's less than 2k now.
And this is the kind of resurgence that you wanted them to see. We did talk about how fighting in this inside the jungle, in these kind of narrow passageways or around objectives where they can funnel people into a choke point, is going to be so key in getting these bullet times off. And you saw it to its full effect there. London need to try and find a flank, they need to engage from the back, or they need to pop the Misfortune right at the start of the fight. If they can't get to her, they are going to just be seeing this repeated over and over again, and hopefully they're not going to be looking at it right now as both teams are posturing around this Drake.
Gallifrey going to be chased away by the Zilean. Nice go, Dom. Not being so nice throwing those clocks directly at Curly Fry's face, but Peak are going to be able to maintain priority, maintain control around that dragon, looking for maybe an engage. Fraser's jump forward, but it's going to get stunned up, taking a little bit of damage there from the Zilean, but he's a reasonably tanky customer. He's not going to mind that too much. And you've got to imagine that Peak will be looking towards this dragon, but a decent defense being held up by London. They are going to proc it and maybe look to get it rushed down, but Blue Spirit's taken very, very low. There's the bullet time. He's deleted as Liam grabs another kill, but now Ollie's going to look for an engage. Can't do it. Jumps out. And you've got to imagine this dragon is going to be just donated over to Peak. And that's, again, exactly what you're saying. Very, very thin chokehold. Bullet time. Kill.
Beautiful concentration as well by Peak Esports. They didn't decide to rush it down. They didn't get nervous and pull the trigger on that Drake too early. They waited until they had the perfect opportunity. They made that pick, and knowing that they had the numbers advantage, knowing that they'd taken out the main carry from the side of London, they then thought, okay, this is our time. We can now claim our reward. I like the patience. I think it puts the team in a very good light, and it shows that they clearly have the confidence to not just try and be reckless, rushing through these objectives.
Lord, I mean, the wall has to go around it, but looking across the board now, Peak less than 1k down. Curly Fry's in a bit of trouble though. Lol, no name forces the wish out of him, but is now going to be forced to back away with the silence. Not going to be too able to get anything down on the Soraka, but very, very capable of clearing out these waves. Zilean not having a bad time up there against that Soraka. You were talking about it, how it could have been lane assignment as written, but they decided against that one. Now it's the 1v1, and Curly Fry healing so much in these exchanges. You've got to imagine that healing reduction is going to be on the minds of many members of London, as they might now look to dive on to nice guy Dom. He's going to resurrect, but he's got no support anywhere. Fraser is there, so that should be a kill. Teleport coming in from behind, though. It will be the Rumble. It will be Death by Lollipops able to keep his mid laner alive, but the ultimate was used.
A lot of resources used to Nice Guy Dom alive there, and this is one of the main reasons why we're seeing the Soraka picked up and rise in priority, because she just was able to absorb such pressure. Like, the amount of time before that fight that Nice Guy Dom and Curly Fry were trading down there was absolutely huge, and it was only when extra members were committed with the teleport that the fight was eventually disengaged, and still deathless.
No second Herald on the map, as it did despawn as London were trying to take it. Left that one a little bit too late. Nice defense there from Peak to deny them that one. And now Blue Spirits has been given Soraka duty. Will root her up. We'll be looking to get some damage down, and he is able to rip through. Curly Fry gets away with a sliver of health, and here comes the engage from Fraser, looking for the Cataclysm, but taking a lot of damage. The Redemption come down. He'll go down, and now Lord Name backing away. There's the bullet time. It's not going to really do anything, though, as Ollie will run directly into a spell shield. They're not going to be able to pick up another one, but they do get a free kill up in that top lane. And London, they won't be complaining about that.
Just as we're praising them for the patience, we see Peak try to push something too aggressively, and this is where the competition is really going to struggle. The only tool they have to go forwards and to try and fight and force something is the Jarvan. If he dives in too early or over aggressively and just can't make these fights work, he's going to get popped straight away, and you are immediately at a numbers disadvantage that is only going to favour London.
We do have a short pause, ladies and gentlemen. That is a London esports pause for a DC. Hopefully we'll be getting back into game very, very shortly. But it does give us a bit of time to take stock. But these teams look very, very even. I think more even than a lot of people would have suggested just based on paper, based on the names that they have. But that's one of the things we love about UKEL. Yes, London have this team of reasonably well-known faces. You've got 4 out of 5 of them played in the UK Proving Grounds and were lauded as some of the best, maybe the best, or some of the best in their positions. No Name as well has been well known for a little while in the UK scene as well, but for Peak, a lot of their players are showing up. Liam had a very sketchy early game, but has been looking better in these team fights. Andy as well, doing a lot of damage in these fights, and as you can see from this replay, yes, they're still getting caught potentially, but they're not looking too far off the pace.
No, but definitely not at all. And you can see as we look at a few of these replays how the different team compositions are working and how the players are actually working together. Like we said, Fraser, there is a lot of impetus on him for this Peak Esports team because he is the main engaged option. You'll see here, unfortunately, it doesn't go his way, but this is the idea. You want to see the Jarvan rushing forwards and then the rest of the members following up. It was a beautiful stun there by Nice Guy Dom that prevented that. The bullet time from Misfortune under the tower would have ripped through Blue Spirits and Nice Guy Dom together, but a good counter-attack by London Esports brings them together. They manage to pick off the free kill by Jarvan diving forwards without quite enough support, and the kill will be donated. But it's been some impressive performances so far. I still think both these teams have a lot to show, and all the players are definitely going to be wanting to turn up and bring their team to victory.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's difficult to see where this game is going to go. You've got to imagine that London still believe they can win this one. I think they are in a slightly better position just because they've had a bit more control over these neutral objectives. They're doing slightly better. But the thing is, you've got the Soraka, who isn't going to do hilarious amounts in that early game. She's going to be very difficult to kill and will put some pressure on, but not really going to be like the, oh, I'm coming out of lane 6-0 kind of figure. You've got to imagine, unless DBL is going to do something hilariously wrong, but I don't know if DBL can do something that hilariously wrong while still being DBL, at this level. So there's still a lot from Peak Esports. I think Fraser needs to dial it back a little bit because,
we've seen a few plays that have been over keen. Say, like the
aggressive
attempt to steal that dragon right at the start. Went in too early, didn't have any vision, just got chunked out and basically gave the objective away for free. That replay that we just saw, the right idea, but didn't have the necessary support to make it work. So again, went down and gave an advantage over to London, but they didn't really, London didn't do anything to gain that advantage. It was just kind of presented to them and they took it. So I think if Fraser raids it in a little bit and we get the rest of the team rallying around, setting up some of these fights that we've seen they can execute on really nicely and really well, they will have a really good chance going forward. And this is the replay, yeah. Fraser goes off the wall, realise this is a bit...
This is what upsets me.
Yeah.
The play, just before this, we saw the bot lane die from Peak. They were killed in a 4v2. Yeah. Liam held his flash in that 4v2 because he knew he was dead, basically. He had the wish from Soraka. He was like, I walk away, I die. Like, I'm going to die if I flash anyway because there are enemies in front of me on Synapse. And you hold your flash. That is great. That's really controlled, really good decision making. But then you flash melee 1v4 in Dragon Pit.
Not really where you want to be.
Like, that's not a good allocation of your resources.
Maybe watching a bit too much double lift in the LCS, perhaps saving that flash for Worlds, and using it at just not the right moment. Didn't really gain a lot from that. But as much as we are ragging a few other players in the pause here, like I said, the teams are very even. The game state of a minute could go either way. It's all going to be about the next few fights that we get, and whether one team can make a substantial enough lead to push them over the line, or whether Peak Esports are going to weather the storm, scale up, and just smash through London, who are going to have a few more team members that will start to tail off.
We'll just have to wait and see. We're still waiting on that pause to be resolved, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies for this. Of course, I'll remind people, if anyone's just joined, it is a red side pause due to a disconnection on their Marksman Blue Spirits. So we're just going to wait for their computer to be rebooted, and hopefully everything will be fine. No lag or problems in game, so we can get back into this one. But of course, this is the third game of the night. We've already seen 2 with Lovely Ducks and the Doctor casting over those, but we've still got another one after this one, which is going to be quite interesting to watch. But right now, Peak Esports versus London Esports. I made a mistake, you know, in the lead up to this.
Go on, I love listening to your mistakes.
I made a tier list of a league that I was casting, which is an error, because it's just never... Making tier lists is fun, and you get impressions, and great stuff. We made a UKLC one, myself and Simply, who, those of you who do not know, used to work on the UKLC. And people didn't like our UKLC tier list. They did not respect our opinions. They said we were wrong. And you know what? Yeah, probably. So we made a UKEL one. Equally, not like... There it is. There's the tier list. So, as you can see...
Has Joe actually got the tier list up on screen? Let's have a look. Let's go for it.
What do you... Well, I put London a lot of top. I thought they'd be very good. And as you can see, I put Peak bottom. It doesn't really look like a 1v8 matchup, though, does it?
It doesn't look quite as one-sided at the minute as where you put, but bear in mind, you are doing this for the outcome overall, I'm assuming.
Yeah, this is not a week. I'm not making a tier list every week. That's not happening. Exactly. That's a lot of work.
I mean, you've still got a lot of ways to, a lot of things to look at this. And your second pick, Absorbed, you put them as the second team to beat. They did win their game. So, you know, you're doing well there so far. I always find that the problem with making tier lists and power rankings, whatever you want to call it, is you're basically giving yourself a sword to fall on. And although it looks very impressive when you're right, you can say, I'm the best analyst, I've got big brain, kind of thing. It's just so often... But that just doesn't happen. Berates you when you're wrong.
I put Jacob in C tier, and last game... To be fair though, I have already put out an official apology to Jacob over on Twitter.
Have you? Well, I don't. You say you put it on Twitter. Why don't you? We're here.
Okay, Jacob, if you're watching, from a small sample size of one game, but a bigger sample size than my no game knowledge of you on that tier list, I apologise for saying that you were C tier. You are in fact probably not C tier. However. The thing is, I make this apology, we're back into the game by the way, knowing that if he feeds for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to have to apologise for my apology.
Yeah, you can have to then, like...
I'm just not a good analyst. This is why I play my play. I just don't know anything. But we are now back into the game, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully everything is resolved. London on the red side, Peak on the blue side. Very, very small gold lead. About 2k, a little bit more than 2k over on the side of London, but Peak have been feisty. They've been tenacious, and they're looking to take their first win of the UKEL split. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere after this game because there will be one after it. And hopefully there'll be VODs of the first two if you're just joining us. If you're just joining us, where have you been? It's been a great time. Everyone's having a laugh. Except me. I'm just sadly waiting for this Soraka to do something.
Well, enough talk of your tier lists and your predictions, Viper, and let's let the teams put the money where the mouth is and show their own performance on the Rift. Actions do speak louder than words at the end of the day, and right now, London are slightly ahead, but only just. It's not a massive gold lead, and to say we are 22 minutes into the game, it is certainly nothing to your hopes on. Both of these teams do still have a lot to offer, and if we are looking at this game going longer, based on the fairly slow pace so far, I do fancy Peak Esports with the more scaling composition.
Gold across the board, you can see on your screen. Thank you very much, Joe. And it's looking pretty even in the places where it matters, so it's really that top lane that you can see the biggest gap in. I'm doing my mental maths very quickly, but DBL having a good time into this Soraka. We'll be able to take down the mid tower, open up the map a little bit. Now that is all the outers gone, you've got to imagine that this could be the turning point where it allows London a little bit more license to go into the jungle, start stealing camps, and really take ownership over Dragon and Baron.
It definitely does, but it also opens up the possibility of them getting caught out more and getting pinned in place. We've said it over and over again. I know we're beating a dead horse at this point, but you can't underestimate how potent fighting in the alleyways and the small, narrow lanes of the jungle is going to be for Peak Esports.
That's a Baron being started up by Peak. They read this one pretty well. Rumble and Poppy are on the wrong side of the map. Rakan is over the back. Nice catch on is there. You've got to much London know that this is happening. They've got wards in there now, so looking to force it away. It's just the Rakan, Varus, and Zillion there now. The Poppy and Rumble are moving up. 5k health on the Baron, but Peak are forced away. That was a really nice, brave play from Peak. Yes, it didn't come off to anything, and now Lol No Name is going to run down towards that dragon, but I like the idea that you see people going down to the other objective. So you start up the opposite one, and even though you're a little bit behind, that could have very easily paid off, and it looks like they might be trying to do it again.
And it also goes playing mind games with your opponents. You know, if all of a sudden you have London Esports thinking, hang on, Peak just tried to start up the Baron while we were on the Drake. Well, every time you move members down to this bottom side of the map, you're now going to be thinking, Peak Esports are willing to try and get these objectives. They're willing to try and force it down, even if they might not be in the best position to do so. So it's going to draw a lot of attention back towards this top side of the map, back away from where London might have been looking at it, and it's going to just have that nagging doubt on the back of their mind and make them a little bit more cautious with the plays, slowing the game down, which is exactly what Peak Esports wants.
However, the Gambit didn't really pay off. They did try to go on the Baron a second time, but once again, Ollie was there to shepherd them away, and now the Dragon has come down. It's basically just, you delayed them getting Dragon for maybe 45 seconds, you didn't gain anything in return, and you lose your mid tower. So yes, I like the idea, but it didn't come off perfectly. A little bit more damage, a little bit more speed on taking the Baron would have allowed you to get it. But right now we're just seeing what could have been a nice play from Peak turning into a decent gain for London.
Yeah, and this is the problem with Miss Fortune. Although she is one of the top tier ADCs at the minute, just behind Senna and Aphelios, she doesn't have a huge amount of objective speed. She's not the quickest at taking towers. She's not the quickest at taking Baron. Instead, you bring her for these big wombo combos in team fight. So if you are trying to rush something down on the opposite side of the map as Peak Esports, you are definitely going to struggle, especially since you don't have a damage dealer in your top lane with the addition of that Soraka as well.
And look, you can see that, you know, Dragon's going to go down faster than Baron. It's starting the Baron again for the second time, so much later than Dragon was started. Nice snipe away from Blue Spirit's actually going to be able to pick up that blue buff. A lot of damage coming in from the Varus, and you could feel a fight might be brewing now as members of Peak looking to maybe make a catch. They get the wall up next to No Name, who takes a little bit of damage. No stun there from the Zillion as the Poppy will be engaged on Blue Spirit's on the back though, able to do a decent amount of damage. There is the bullet time. Poppy going to go very low, going to be resurrected as Ollie jumps away, and now the red carpet has been laid out. Fraser though, getting a nice big heal. Blue Spirit's looking for the snipe, can't land it, but G2 Liam will be able to get a kill onto Ollie as he tries to re-engage. Now members of London have to be in retreat. Nice go Dom. Again, cannot get a stun, and 5 members of Peak now to 4 members of London. Could this be the Baron that we've been waiting for?
Baron might not go down here, but a nice pickup will put more gold in the pockets of Peak Esports. The Soraka and the Miss Fortune were still alive at the backside of that fight. They have moved on for Baron.
Baron is still going to be attacking members of Peak as Andy looks to get some more damage onto the Poppy. Decent tackler. That's a really nice stun coming in there as Dead by Lollipops moves forward. The Wish will keep members healthy as Fraser looks for another re-engage. Dead by Lollipops going golden and moving away. No more stun there, but a huge play there from London to stop the Baron going down. They might look for a re-engage, but the root comes up onto Zillion. Nice stun there onto them, but it's not going to matter as Fraser jumps forward and gets the kill onto Zillion. But now Blue Spirit's getting some damage on, but needs to be careful. Can't step forward too much as he's got no way to escape. Fraser taking low. Nice flash to avoid the root as Synapse will be going low, will be going down as Lol No Name looks to chase the fight forward, but they're going to lose Blue Spirits to all the damage from Anivia. 3-man knock up there from the red carpet. There's not too much follow-up. Another red carpet, second one of the fight as Fraser will start to burn. Liam will be able to survive, goes down after he gets the kill for himself, but that's a very nice double as Lol No Name, the only member from London, is surviving as 3 members from Peak make their way out.
A massive turnaround from Peak. Yes, we were forced away from a Baron, but the aftermath was a bloodbath, and it all went their way. Just kiting back with Soraka, keeping people topped up, keeping members in the fight, and just bullying London back and forth, chipping away at the health bars. It wasn't some explosive team fight. It wasn't a massive wombo combo to delete health bars in an instant. It was a war of attrition that you just simply had more resources on the side of Peak to deal with. Yes, there were a couple of good stuns that went the way. We're looking at a 4-man stun right here now, but it just wasn't quite enough from the side of London, and they came off much worse after that fight.
And Blue Spirits, you can see the amount of damage he's able to put down, but again, he's Varus. He's not going to be able to fully escape from all of this engage. And if he gets caught by one bit of CC, you can see him flashing away, dodging that one, but he has to go aggressively in order to do so. And he just gets melted through by the Nether and goes down. And then the fight is kind of just a clean-up job. Yes, members of Peak are still very low. Another really nice bit of engage from Ollie with a 3-man knockup. But at this stage, Peak, they've got the damage numbers. And yes, 3 of them are very, very low, and they do lose another member. It just doesn't really matter, though, because you're getting so much gold swing. And Peak have taken the lead on kills for the first time in this game, and yes, they're still behind in gold, but once again, story of the game, Peak are looking resilient, they're looking tenacious, and London needs to be careful. They're not controlling this game as they were a few minutes ago, and this dragon could be a big contention point. It's just spawning now, will give London soul if they can grab it, and the numbers on wins when you've got soul are intense. As now we're going to see the fight coming in. The bullet time doesn't really do all that much, but now Nice Guy Dom is separated from his team, looks to try and get a bomb down, and is pretty speedy, but he's going to be slowed by Nivea. Look at Death by Lollipops in the back line, but it doesn't matter. Nice Guy Dom has been taken down. You've got to imagine this is the end of London's chances of getting this dragon, as all the members of Peak should be able to rinse this one through.
Just forced away completely. Peak turning up, and London didn't want to even take that fight as a 50-50. They just fully ran away, disengaged, lost a member on the way out, and they lost the dragon as well. This is the power that Peak is starting to have. We said that they would scale better, and you are seeing the effects of that now. Rumble and the Varus are just not getting in the positions they need to actually force the damage through in fights, whereas Peak can try and bully the way through. They have so much control, and even if they blow everything on 1 or 2 members, they then have the numbers advantage needed to win this very even game.
Baron might have been stopped here, you know, Soraka taken down to below half health. 4 members of London, Zillion obviously not there, he's just respawned and is running there as fast as his clock can carry him. DBL needs to be careful, Lord No Name as well. Ollie, I have to back away, but Baron is stopped once again. Peak just can't seem to grab this objective. As Blue Spirits now needs to be very, very careful. He doesn't get engaged on. Nice knockup from Ollie to deny that one. The wall comes up, but it's only going to deter the J4, and members of London get away. You can feel like Peak really want to take these fights, take these objectives, but London, they're just not letting them have it.
Must admit, Viper, and I did not catch what you said at the end. I had a little bit of a cutout,
oh, no.
But both of the teams appear to be just taking a mini bit of a reset, trying to reposture, and trying to maybe lick the wounds. You're going to have to see London Esports approach these fights in a different way. Ollie needs to try and split up from his team. He needs to find a flank to get into the backline and cause some disruption. Get 3 or 4 members with the quickness that's going to allow that follow-up engage and the fight that London wants. If all 5 members of London are stuck together like they have been this past few fights, it's really easy for Peak Esports to maneuver, to navigate the front line around, and just keep the key members safe.
Once again, setting up around Baron, looking to try and take this objective. Peak really, really want this big purple worm, and it's not going to be easy for them to take. Members of London all around. TPL looking to come up as well. They don't want to give this one up without a fight. And you've got to imagine that they're not going to be able to sneak this one. They're not going to be able to rush it down. It's going to have to be take the fight, then take the objective. And in a 5v5 straight on, you can't be sure who's going to win it. That is how close this game is. It looks like we've got a little bit of a disconnect there. And we're going to have a pause going down as well once again in this game, sadly. No Name just disconnecting there. Hopefully we'll get them back on very, very soon. But this is such a close game, and it's really, really interesting to see how these two teams are playing around each other and how these team fights are going.
Yeah, and it's all about positioning. It's all about getting the right engage, and just the tiniest little misplay can cost you big in these fights now. It is that close, with the difference only being, what, 1.5, 2k
yeah,
at 30 minutes
about
in?
That.
It's It's a slight mismanagement of your ultimate, not having the cooldown when you need it, not having those summoners available to keep you safe, or getting caught in the wrong position, that is really going to cause you big problems and cause these fighters to swing. And all it's going to take is one big fight, one big objective, and the gold will swing to the other team. It will give a big advantage, and that's why we're seeing the teams both play so cautiously over the past few minutes.
And we're seeing Peak have been winning the fights in the last 5-10 minutes of this game, and you can see why they've got a lot of tools. We talked about it from Champ Select up until now. You've got the Anivia, the Jarvan. These are all great team fighting champions, but I'm still seeing this game. I'm looking at them like, we've seen this in our LEC kind of, but Varus can just rinse for an entire team if he's kept alive. And if you can get rid of the Jarvan very, very quickly, the ability for Peak to get through and get onto the Varus is pretty low. Yes, the Anivia and the Morgana have abilities that will do damage to him, but if he can play correctly, he can get out of those AoEs, and he can still just like murder through the enemy lines. And I can see that could be a big swing point, because if Varus survives a team fight and Peak gets wiped, they get aced, or they lose most of their members, that's easily a Baron. That's easily an inhibitor down that mid lane, and once you start cracking open the base like that, it becomes much harder for Peak to get back into this one. So yes, while it doesn't look great for London, and yes, while their comp maybe doesn't scale as well, there's still a way back into this one.
Oh, there definitely are still options, and like I said, one of the main things I really want to see is getting this Rakan away from the rest of the team. You don't want him grouped up in that 5, you want him over a wall, finding a flank somewhere so he can get into the back behind the rest of this team, and just cause chaos with the grand entrance, with the quickness, just causing all of this disruption that Rakan is so well known for, that's going to allow Varus the time to step forward, rack up that Ginsu's passive, and start shredding through his members like he needs to, instead of constantly having to be kiting back, which is how London has had to play out these last few fights.
And we've seen that London is very capable of landing that disruption. We've seen 4-man stuns from Zilean, we've seen 3-man knockups from Rakan, but there needs to be follow-up for that. And as we're going to see here, this is the big stunning replay, and this team fight, it just goes to prove how capable all of these players are on London, how able they are to land CC. Zilean goes down instantly, but then the fight is just reasonably well played from London. They still come out behind, but look at Blue Spirits here. He's going to be dodging abilities. Ollie's coming in as well. Keep your eyes on that, because he's going to make a really, really nice play. Blue Spirits melted through by the Anivia, because look, Ollie makes a really, really nice play here, but there's no one to follow up, right?
Yeah.
No Name is reasonably low. Yes, while tanky. Death by Longhorns isn't in position because he had to cut away. So yes, you can make these really cool, impressive plays, but at the end of the day, you're kind of still just trading 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Optimistically in this play.
And like you said, with Ollie making that engage there, it was, if that would have happened at the start of the fight, when the Varus was still alive, or when Death by Lollipops was a bit more able to get that red rumble carpet down, it could have gone so differently. The game is this close between the two teams right now that a skill shot landing or a good knock-up, a bit of CC at the right time, will swing these fights. But London are just having this issue where they just seem to be on the back foot, even when they're initiating these fights by stopping the Baron, moving up and finding the members of peaky spots, doing it there. They just don't have the initiation to start the fights, which is something Peak do in the form of Jarvan.
Yeah, and we might have made some comments about Fraser's engages in the early game, but he's been very, very solid in his big team fight scenarios. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a marathon, not a sprint here at the UKEL. We are on game 3 of 4 for tonight. Peak Esports in London. We are in a little bit of a pause due to a red side disconnect. But make sure you don't go anywhere after this, even if it's getting close to your bedtime, folks, because our last game of the night is going to be a pretty big one between Nuclear Storm Gaming and Mythos. So you're going to want to stick around for that one, I'm sure. But want to see the conclusion of this Peak versus London game, because it's very, very close. And we questioned in Champions Select actually the Anivia pick. It's not something we see all that often, and
yeah,
it looks really, really good. The composition that Peak has built, every bit of it is everyone's doing something within this composition. They've all got a role, and their team fight looks very, very good. London's composition maybe looks a little less
coordinated,
put together, in that yes, all the champions are still doing what they're meant to be doing, and the players are playing pretty well on them, but it's just not the same level of team fighting prowess in that Jarvan goes in, Olivia goes in, bullet time goes off, you've got the Morgana making sure that the misfortune is going to be assassinated on the backline, whereas with London, it's kind of more, Poppy's going to go in and engage and be tanky. Can we get Varus to rip through people? We've got decent champions across the board, which can work, but Peak are being very, very resilient and not being broken down by what people on paper would see as ground for ground, maybe slightly better players. And that's no disrespect on Peak, because that's what people have been saying around this tournament. A lot of people have put London as firm favourites. And this would be a massive statement from Peak to come out and win this first game, because they must be thinking to themselves, games probably don't get much harder than this.
Yeah, and I think what you said about the style of the team compositions is spot on there by Prune. Like, we've had fights already where we've looked at, we've seen Peak's performance in the team fight, and we've said that is exactly what their team composition wanted to do. That is exactly how they wanted to position, how they wanted to layer all of their abilities, and it worked beautifully. We haven't really seen that from London because they don't have a composition that fits together and slots together as nicely. And yes, they have strong teams. You can look at each champion and each lane individually and go, yeah, okay, you're supposed to lane, you're supposed to come online in the mid game and fight around objectives. But synergistically as a whole, it just doesn't quite fit together as well as Peak's does. And I think that's the real difference we're seeing here. When Peak executes their team composition well, it really shines through and you can see it working perfectly. London, it's about the individual players making those big moments, the 4-man stuns, the CC disengages, the flash to get out of the way to be able to reposition yourself and deal that damage that you need to in fight. And when you're not managing to find those key individual moments, London's team just doesn't seem to be doing as much.
I think this is just all a massive example of why I shouldn't make tier lists, basically. Like,
yeah,
this is just
bullied a little bit now.
I've just made myself look very stupid by doing this, which, you know, that's fine. It's just very wrong, isn't it?
You have ranked all the members of London the highest in every respect.
I did.
I believe. Yeah,
I did do that.
Yes,
this is. I've got to admit, there's a little bit of bias on players who played in Proving Grounds, just because I have more knowledge of them, having passed that tournament.
And there's a few names here that we can see standing out immediately. Blue Spirits and Nice Guy Dom had a fantastic showing in Proving Grounds. Like, you know, if we'd have been looking at this together and making this, I can 100% agree with, you know, the Nice Guy Dom, Blue Spirits, Ollie even being up there as well as top runners for those positions. So I'm not gonna flame you too.
I mean, it's the kind of thing where, like, yeah, I'm an idiot, but at the same time, there are a lot of other idiots who made tier lists. So I think, yes, well, that's one of the great things about UKEL, right? Like, you could be as on paper correct about tier lists as possible, and asterisk, this isn't a correct on paper tier list. It was 50% of this was made by someone who is in bronze, and that's not even me.
Nice.
But like, there will be people. I was talking to someone about my UKLC tier list actually, and saying, hey, we didn't have that much information on some of these players, and he was saying, well, yeah, we've looked at the teams, we've looked at the players that we brought in, and we honestly think we could make top 2 in UKLC. And it's kind of the same here, because you look at some of the names across the board, you don't really know some of these players, and you think, okay, well, probably 4th to 6th, 7th, 8th position for them, but then they come in and they beat players that are very, very well known. Just to let everyone know what's happening right now, we are still having connection problems with London Esports, so as per the rules of the tournament, we're going to wait a few more minutes just to see if we can get a reconnection, and then it will have to go down to either a forfeit or a 5v4. You've got to imagine most teams don't forfeit. You've got to imagine it's 5v4. But that'd be unfortunate, but we've got to get the games to move along somehow, and this might be the only way of doing it.
Yeah, if you're going to take the loss anyway, you may as well try and fight 5 versus 4, because you can still showcase some of your talents. You can still carry a game through with right positioning. It just does, of course, get all the more difficult. And this definitely isn't going to be the situation London Esports will have been wanting from the first week of the UKEL. They won't have been wanting to have to dig the way out of, you know, a loss and what is looking like it might shape up to a loss due to technical difficulties. That never feels good in any situation, and it certainly doesn't feel good for these players that are wanting to prove themselves, are wanting to try and perform, especially when we do have a large prize pool that we're playing for here. It's not just, this isn't just some regional tournament we've put together, a regional league, or some prize pool that the teams are playing for here. So it's definitely going to feel bad taking any of these losses, especially in the early weeks.
Yeah, you've got to kind of get very good performances in the first couple of weeks just to prove to everyone watching, the other teams, the fans, that you are a top team, that you are going to be fighting out for those top prizes, as you were saying. And right now, both of these teams have looked pretty decent. I don't think it's a case of, wow, Peak have really shown up and London have looked terrible. It's not that at all. London have looked very, very strong, but Peak have really stepped up and played well themselves. And that's kind of what we wanted to see for all the teams, the idea of teams coming and playing well and competing at the top level. Whereas sometimes in these kind of leagues where it's not an ERL, it's not higher level, that you have teams that come in and dominate every single game and win every single game. And you have teams that come in and compete for that bottom half of the table position. But right now, from watching these games, there hasn't been a standout contender to be that, wow, you're that 8th place team. And assuming that the last game goes similarly to the ones we've seen already, we've got a very, very strongly contested tournament on our hands.
And that is exactly what you want. When you do have 8 teams coming together, you don't want to be going into each week thinking, realistically, we know that we're the bottom 2, the bottom 3 in this league. We know we can't take games off the people at the top of the table. All the teams want to be fighting each other on a relatively even footing. It's good when everybody can take games off their opponents, when you can have these upsets coming through, and you have a real sense of competition. But I believe we do have a bit of a countdown clock on our screen. I've just been told the game has resumed as a 5 versus 4. We just have a little bit longer of a spectator delay before we can get back into what's going on, to avoid any dishonest practice between any of the players, teams, and our obviously broadcast now that it has gone down to 5 versus 4.
It's unfortunate. However, that's sometimes just how it is, sadly. London, you've got to imagine going 5v4. Yes, you can win 5v4s. We've all done it in solo queue, but in this kind of environment, you've got to imagine they're probably not going to win this one. I'm ready to look very stupid if they do go on to win it, but it's a disappointing way to end this match, considering it's been such a hotly contested one. Peak obviously also probably won't be happy with the way that this game ends, because people will say, oh, you beat London, but it was a 5v4, right? Like, people who haven't watched the game, but then you'll come back and saying, look, Peak for long stretches looked like the better team and were deserving of winning 5v5. They were dominating in team fights, they were taking objectives and being very proactive, so...
And although we don't know what is going to happen for the rest of the game, like we say, London Esports could come back and take the victory despite being a man down. I think, based on the past 10 minutes of play that we have seen, if you asked me, during this pause, who is going to win the game going forwards, if things keep going, the way they have been so far, I would have said Peak Esports do deserve to win this game at a 5v5, and it's definitely going to feel bad for them if they do kind of get hit with that cop-out card of, oh, well, you beat London Esports, but it was 5 versus 4, wasn't it, Like, it's just, it doesn't feel fair to Peak Esports if they do manage to turn this game out, but like we said, we still don't know that. It is looking dire for London, though, when they have lost a member. Which member was it that...
It was their jungler no-name on the Poppy.
Okay, so basically their entire front line.
Yeah. Not really what you want.
No.
Losing out on. You don't really want to lose any member of your team, right? But at this stage, having all of your tankiness just completely removed from team fights, it's like... It's just going to be really, really difficult to win these fights, and you weren't winning the team fights with the Poppies soaking up 2-3k damage every fight. So when she's not there to be marshalling away people from your Varus, from your Zillion, it's going to be really, really rough, and I don't know how London are going to try and win this game now, because you'd have a Smite, there's no way you're going to be able to take these Barons and Dragons in
It's so
contested
close to getting
situations.
the Soul as well.
Yeah, that's it. It is really, really rough, but
These things do happen.
yeah.
We've done our fair dues. We've given the teams as much time as we can to try and get the members back, try and get back into the game. But we do have a schedule to try and stick to. We do have other teams waiting to play but are being left on hold at the minute. I believe it's about a 20-minute wait that Mythos and Nuclear Storm have been going so far. So we will try and get back into the game as quickly as possible. And we are here now, resuming at around 32 minutes in, and you can see Lol No Name is running back to base there. The disconnected Poppy that will not be present for the rest of our game.
Yeah, very disappointed to see that one, but London, it's going to have to be a sooner rather than later thing for them now. It's a 5v4, the longer the game goes on, the more problems you're going to have. Fraser looks for the engage onto Blue Spirits, who has oversteps, takes a lot of damage and goes down instantly, and you've got to imagine that could just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Your marksman is gone. Now the Baron will surely be on the menu for Peak Esports, and there's going to be absolutely no contest this time around.
Yeah, 3 versus 5, you can't contest this. You don't have the smite, you don't really have a massive amount of damage. The most you can try and do is ward them away with the Rumble red carpet going across the back. Just try and chip away at these health bars, but with 5 members there, a Soraka able to heal them up, it is not going to happen. And it looks like a fairly easy Baron secure for Peak Esports, which is undoubtedly going to lead to just one of the inhibitors being broken quite early.
Fraser just... Am I reading that wrong? Did he just flash on the spot outside of Baron?
It looks
the
like
Jarvan.
that's what happened.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah,
well,
I
we're going to see
believe that
Peak
is-
run down mid. They should be able to probably get a team fight and close this one out. Would be cool to see if he did do that flash. Don't know if that's BM or not, but yeah, you can see. Okay, here we go. They get the Baron. It's all nice. The Rumble ultimate is pretty decent. From there, and then Jarvan's just, wandering around, having a great time. Yeah.
And
He gets the knock off on the skull. Okay, no, that was a completely legitimate flash then. I apologise, as we're going to see the siege continue, and it's going to have to be a miracle for London to defend 4v5 with Baron buff now crashing into them.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. You don't have the member who was your best chance at keeping any distance between and the rest of Peak Esports, having that gap, having that front line. We were already saying how London had very little engage, and with the Poppy gone, that's practically non-existent.
Get a decent fight on the triple stun. Blue Spirits is very, very low. Will be taken down by Fraser, who jumps onto the flag, and that's a nice 3-man cataclysm into the fishbowl. There's the bullet time, and it's going to be curtains for London as they do lose one. The resurrection will come through. It won't be enough, though. Double stun there from Zillion, who is going to get killed himself, though, and now Ollie's going to flash away, but he is the last man standing. The Nexus, you don't imagine, will stand for too much longer because the death timers... They're reasonably long, actually. It's pretty slow for London to get back into this. They are going to have to break through the inhibitor. This might not be the end of the game just yet, but teleport coming in now, and
it feels like a inevitable decline of the London esports base at this point. Like you're saying, by Brood, sooner rather than later for London to try and do something. Unfortunately, they just weren't able to do it. It looks like we will see 5 members crashing down, and London's Nexus will be in Peak Esports' sight.
And that's the win going over to Peak Esports. I think sad the way it happened, but thoroughly deserved, I think is the way I would describe that. And again, massive asterisk on the... Yeah.
We're saying even regardless of the disconnect, both kind of felt that Peak Esports did deserve to win it, but they would have taken it in the scaling game. So, although the circumstance that it happened is unfortunate, I think it's the result that would probably have happened regardless.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think Peak, as you say, very deserved winners coming out that one. They drafted a very nice composition and played it very well. So massive congratulations to them. London Esports commiserations, of course. Would have liked to have seen that game go to conclusion 5v5, but sometimes technical difficulties do happen. We're going to look to jump out of this one very, very quickly because we are running over time because that was quite a long one. And when we come back, we'll catch our last game of the day. Nuclear Storm Gaming will be taking on Mythos, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a minute.